Well, hello, welcome to me, Tina here. How's everyone's doing? So today I got Laurie Johnson's back again and again. Of course, everybody loves her and she's so wise. Not only she's so wise, she's a very amazing esoteric and magic teacher, magic work teacher, Wiccan teacher. She is an author of the book which is Into the Aquarian, which I wanted to show you real quick right here before I forget. How about that? So I'm just gonna pull up into Amazon.com here, guys. So this is her book. She has written on Kindle only. So grab a copy for yourself. It's not expensive at all. I think it's only like $4.99 unless you are a Kindle member. And then this is like doesn't cost you anything. All right. So you can also go into some of her videos that I have interviewed her. She probably did about 5, 6 interview already. And this is the last video she talked about creating magic and how to do that. And if you so scroll down, you can see all her bio, her website, where you can contact her here. And I have a link for you to buy the book that I just shown you. Okay. So with that said, I would like to welcome her. She's going to be talking about a lot of fascinating stuff about the planets, Jupiter in Aries, and Mercury is going to go direct in June. So let's hear it, Laurie.
So we are in a time of kind of coming out of a lot of difficulty. We're not quite there yet, but when we talked about the 2 years that were COVID, which I've always said COVID is the tip of the iceberg of the energetic changes that are representing themselves physically. So we go through that where COVID took us into having to be very self-reliant, know self a lot more. Not everybody wanted to do the work, so they kind of ignored it. But most people did the work where they reassessed themselves because they really didn't have much of a choice, whether they were isolating or not. There was a time during those 2 years where everybody had to isolate sometime, even if it was only a couple of weeks, but it took us in. So the first 4 months of this year, after we got out of in 2021, was a lot about us facing our own karma, as in looking back on how we have been formed in this lifetime, which is influenced by other lifetimes, but looking how we have adapted to this lifetime and what we took on ourselves that isn't us. The biggest example of that is, people coming out of high school and their parents want them to be doctors and they don't know what they want to do. So the pressure is become a doctor and they don't want to be a doctor, but they don't have another choice. So they decide that they're going to do that. And then they're in a career, they're in college, they're in doing something that they don't want to do. And it's like they put on a really heavy overcoat that is somebody else's, it's not theirs. So the first 4 months of the year, ending not exactly at the end of April, a little before that, but still those were the months where we had to assess. We get this every August, but it's more like on a year cycle. August is like the Hungry Ghost month. It's the karmic catch-up month. But this was like finishing off a journey of the last couple of years and kind of putting a capper on it. It's like, all right, I did the cleanse and I know who I am now. Now let's clean away the dust bunnies. So when we start going into the rest of this year, which technically won't really start until we get out of Mercury retrograde, then we can put into practice a new version of ourselves. Because what we're moving into and what we've kind of hit at the end of April is a strange new world. It's not strange new world that's going to revert back to the old world, but it's not exactly the same as it was before. When we were going through the last 2 years and the first 4 months of this year, it was so foreign. It felt like each one of us was dropped in the middle of China, where we didn't know the language, we didn't know the culture, we didn't have anybody there, and we're expected to survive and make our way and be successful however we can. Very, very foreign, very, very uncomfortable. With the energy coming to an end in April and us being able to take advantage of it a little bit more in June, that it was like we were all dropped in Canada. So got to be nice, because that's Canada, but also speaking English, most of Canada anyway. So it's not that foreign. I mean, if you're, standard old fashioned American where English is the main language, and the banking system is the same, but not really. The road system is the same, but not really. Everything is the same as in the United States, but not really. There's just enough that we're going, eh. It's not a huge change. It's just a little change, but this is the way we're going to be now. Couple of things that prove this to me. I had like 6 events that happened in a week's time at the end of April that, and I'm going to say this, and it sounds like it's really petty stuff, but when we get into rhythms, especially rhythms that were established over the last 2 years, which were survival rhythms, you know, how we go to the store is different. Whether people are wearing masks now, how we got into a rhythm of going to the store or of dealing with people or going to restaurants, it's still different. And it's not different that it's going to revert to the old, no matter how much people want to. It is now stepping into a different vibration. So I've had a lot of things over the last couple of years that have gotten to be very comfortable rhythms for me. And I wanted to change them. And it's just like, I'm too tired. I'm not going to worry about changing them. One of the things is I feed a cat colony in my neighborhood. And when I started feeding them a couple of years ago, right before COVID hit on a regular basis, I wanted to get them TNR, trapped, neutered, and released so that they would be safer and I didn't have a bunch of little kittens running around and getting killed.
Right.
So I called, Texas is a no-kill state. So they have a huge program in Austin called Austin Pets Alive, and they will come and TNR your cat colony for you and bring them back. But when I called them, they were shut down because of COVID. And then they opened up again, and then they shut down because of COVID again. So I called them a couple of months ago, thinking that they were open again, and they were open again, but the list was so long for people who needed it. They said it'll take a couple of months. So I'm sitting there going, and I'm waiting for them to call, and it's a couple of months and they still haven't called. And then a couple of weeks ago, a woman came to my door with a flyer for a cat who was missing and was injured, and they wanted to find it and find out that she runs a TNR program. So she came to my door and she says, oh yeah, I'll TNR your cats for you for free. And so she did. She came. I have about 12 cats and she caught 8. She's going to come back when they're not so scared anymore. But I needed to have a change in rhythm because I was feeding them in the front yard and they were like messing up my porch and just peeing on it and everything. So I wanted to feed them in the backyard, but I also wanted to have them safe, you know, like neutered. And so this is what happened. I switched to feeding them in the backyard because they were all gone for a while and then they came back. And so I was able to have a rhythm change that I wanted to have changed and I didn't know how to change. In that case, I needed some help. But then there are 2 stupid things that are not really stupid to me, but I wanted to stop watching the news so much because it's just, when Trump was there, when we were in the beginning of Biden, and with the things that are going on, it's really important to follow that stuff.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to stop. So Rachel Maddow is my main person on MSNBC, and she took a hiatus while she was doing other things. And then when she came back, I'm going, oh, finally, I can watch the news safely. I trust her. I like what she says, blah, blah. And then she says, I'm only coming back on Mondays. And I'm going, oh, thank you. That kills my news fix. I can only watch her on Monday and I'll like check in every once in a while, but I got into the habit that I'd start off with her and then I'd leave the TV on, walk into my gaming room and play games while I'm listening to the news, and I'm getting this negativity all the time. So now that rhythm is broken. And then another stupid thing is that I had Westerns saved my life during COVID. I love Westerns and I watched all the old Westerns on all the old programs, you know, it's Bonanza or it's, you know, Lancer or whatever, all the old things. And that kept me going. And I still had them on my DVR. And it's like, I don't need those anymore. I'm not going to watch them again. I watched them 400 times during the last 2 years. And I just couldn't delete everything. And I had like, I don't know, 50% of my storage contained with Westerns and movies that I wasn't going to watch because it's like, I want to see that. And I recorded it, but it's like, yeah, I'll get around to it sometime. So we had a windstorm and it threw my satellite dish off, and they came out and looked at it and said, your satellite dish is fine, we're fixing it, but now your DVR is too old, it needs to be replaced, which means that I lost all my content in a way that I could be bitchy about it, but it's like, thank you, clean slate. I don't have
my
to
God. Yeah,
you know, that kind of thing.
This is what they're doing to you, Laurie. Universe doing this to you. I can see the whole picture. It's just clean slate. Yep.
Yes.
Wipes everything out.
And that's what I got on all of these things. They just simplified my life in a way that I wanted. And I either didn't have the energy or I needed somebody like a TNR person to come in. But these are like subtle little things, like being dropped in Canada. It's subtle little stuff that's just different.
Changes. It's a changes for you and for everyone else too, you know, but it's better change. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people would actually pay attention to little silly things like that. But it meant something to me. And that wasn't, I mean, I'm saying like there are 6 or 7 events that happened in the same week that were very similar to that. So we're going into, and we are in now, a strange new world. And with Jupiter and Aries, which is a very uplifting energy that happened on the same day that Mercury went retrograde, it's kind of like it's lifting us up, but then Mercury is saying, well, let's just get used to it slowly and pay attention to self, because all retrogrades make you have to pay attention to self. You have to go inside. It's like
Right.
everything. With Mercury retrograde, it's like re-examining your communication, reassessing how you deal with other people or what you're signing legally. It's having to go that. So it's a very inner cleansing thing, any retrograde. But also be aware, and we can see this from, I think it was last weekend, but all of the events, the planetary events, are affecting us so much more. Not because they're stronger, but because we are becoming more sensitive with every single day that goes on. Even people who are thick as a brick and decided that they're going to be stuck, their vibration is still shifting. Not as much as people who are open to it, but it's still shifting, which means we are feeling whatever the planetary activity is feeding us. So
Especially especially the blood moon,
yes,
this.
exactly. That's what I was going to say, that on last Sunday, I think it was, we had the really intense, powerful super full moon and the first full lunar eclipse, not a partial, but a full lunar eclipse, which has its own power to it. And that was the weekend we had 6 or 7 mass shootings at the same time.
Oh, wow. Yes.
If you ever worked in an emergency room or associated with somebody who works in an emergency room in a hospital, they'll tell you that this full moon stuff is real, because they get the crazies. They get, not just the mentally ill or the ones who have just gone off, but then the anger, the frustration, the heavy emotions come in at that time. So I don't know how many people made that
I have
analogy.
heard that. I actually have heard that years ago, Laurie. So this is not the first time I heard. Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that, because I have heard of this long time ago.
Yes. And so when we look at that and what's happened with the full moon and all the people that just clicked, not that they were all going to do it at the same time. Maybe they weren't going to do it at all, and they were going to think about it and they were going to threaten it, but they weren't going to do it. But that full moon energy pushed them over the edge, because without them being aware of it, they are more sensitive to it. So that rolling into where we are in a Mercury retrograde right now, the retrograde is really affecting us. So even, and I have a client who Mercury was retrograde when she was born. So when the retrograde comes for her, it's like, hey, this is fun, I'm having a good time. But if it's not retrograde when you were born, then it will challenge you. But it's again challenging you to continue to look inside when we're like, I don't want to look inside anymore. Can we just move forward? Yes, we can, but honor what's going on now, because this is the capper of like almost 2.5 years of refinement of self. And now we're going into full on being able to appreciate the Jupiter and Aries energy, which is very active. It's very uplifting. It's very, I would say, successful, because that's Jupiter. Jupiter is expansion and success, especially in the entertainment industry, but anything that is creative. Although Jupiter loves business, so it's kind of like just across the board is going to be really good.
Wow.
But that energy will, we have other, planets that are doing this, that, and the other thing, but the things that affect us the strongest, Jupiter will in this case, because it's the biggest planet in the solar system. And actually all of the planets could easily fit into Jupiter and still have room for another solar system.
Wow.
But it's also that Mercury, or the inner planets, because we have the inner planets are considered up until Mars, and then we have the asteroid belt, and then there are the outer planets starting with Jupiter. But the inner planets of Mercury, Venus, and Mars, whenever they go retrograde, because they're closest to us, they have a bigger impact. So this Mercury retrograde, it's not worse than any other Mercury retrograde that we've ever had. It's just we are feeling it more. And it can just be in delay in communication, or it's kind of like everything just doesn't seem to be working out, or even depression. Because right now, okay, this is another thing that's going on right now, and this is going to continue for a little while. Sorry, falling apart here. That a lot of people are kind of hit with the zoomies right now. And I take that from my cats. This is what they call in the middle of the night or right before you go to bed, the cats are running around like crazy. They call that the zoomies. That they just get into their head, they're going to run around. This is them channeling energy.
Wow.
But right now, this is really cool too. There is a rhythm that happens when you come into the life. Obviously, you choose certain things that you're going to do, like your college curriculum. These are the classes, these are the teachers, this is the dorm room. Doesn't mean you always pass. It doesn't mean you finish. It means that's the intention. But also, we kind of have a template of what's going to happen in our lifetime generally. Okay. And that would mean we were aware that was going to be 9/11. Not necessarily we were consciously aware, but we knew that there was going to be change, that
Yeah.
this was going to happen, that was going to happen. And there's a rhythm. It's kind of like sketched. It's not like in super detail, but we kind of have that. So we know, like when we're going to go into college, it's kind of like college has been established. It's been there for a while. There's a rhythm that we follow. The difference in what this lifetime, and especially what right now is doing, is that with all the people that have been stuck, and again, not the majority, but in such fear that they have delayed a normal rhythm that we would be used to, that we're used to. So we're
Wow.
like 2 years behind where we knew we were going to be when we came into this lifetime. It's like, this is the rhythm. When I get to be this age, I would have accomplished this and accomplished that. And now we're at that age and we didn't accomplish it because the last 2 years, because of people standing in their own fear, which was so palpable and still is, that it delayed everything. So there are people that are like, I'm in the zone with the earth. I'm doing well. I'm working forward and I got delayed. Why can't I move forward now? And they got these zoomies like, I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to run around and get this done. And because they felt that they've been held back, then it's even stronger. And because it's not falling into place, then the first thing, as we do, mainly women do this, is look, what am I doing wrong? What have I done wrong that I can't move forward when I feel that I should be moving forward? And I got to play catch up. Okay. And just to let people know, it's a feeling that you can't just say, all right, I'm not going to feel that anymore. It's acknowledge what it is so that one, you stop judging yourself. Because if I could tell everybody one thing to do, stop judging yourself. Because we do that. It's like if anything is going wrong, we're going to go first. What did I do wrong? And even if you're not acknowledging that, that's going to still be part of what you're dealing with. So
But
let
that's
go
even
of,
gonna slow down. That's even gonna slow down the process of what's
yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
happen. Yeah.
It gets in the way. I talked with somebody this week who didn't know any of this stuff, and fear, because she did this wrong. This wasn't happening. And she's got all these things that are going on and there isn't a guy. And I'm going, honey, you did a great job so far. If you survive a hurricane, you're not worried if you got your hair done. You survived the frickin' hurricane. That's big.
Yeah.
So, and being able to survive that, we know we don't look at things in perspective, but being able to survive that and move forward, survive the last 2.5 years and then be able to move forward, even if it's not where we think we should be. We agreed to come here so everybody learned the lesson. Everybody learned what we're supposed to be learning now, even people who are really stuck. They're learning it. They just don't want to put it into practice because of their own egos. Okay,
Yeah.
no, you can't tell me what to do. I'm learning it, but I'm not going to put it into practice until next lifetime. Well, it's too late for them to really be able to do something in this lifetime, but they're going to hold on to it anyway, hold on to what they want, hold on to their ego, hold on to their fear. So the fear factor is going to cycle really strongly during the summer and going into the fall, because we've got an election in the United States and the war and all that kind of stuff. So it
Yeah.
seems like we're in this extreme time, and we are, but the energy that's changing is more extreme than what we're actually seeing. So if we talk about, and I've talked about before, like if you can manifest the energy change that's going on right now, it's like, all the volcanoes on the planet are erupting at the same time. So
Wow.
that's the underneath thing. And that's not what we're seeing in the physical world, but we feel it and then we judge it by what should be happening, by what we feel should equate to. I feel all these changes are going on, or all this challenge is there, and I don't know what it is. So I must be doing something wrong because I can't understand it. So I'm sorry, talking a lot. Sorry. Got it.
No, it's okay. There's so much information. You're channeling stuff, you got a lot to share with us. So when you say yes, there's a lot of challenges coming up, with the war, with inflation, all that. How does this Jupiter planet in Aries help with this energy, Laurie?
One thing, it's going to lift possibilities like crazy. So people who are in the zoomies finally get to start moving forward, and it's going to work really well as long as you don't judge that it should be faster.
Yeah.
Take the should out of it, the faster out of it. We're out of the bigger, harder, stronger, faster. But it's like being able to move forward with ease, have things fall into place, serendipity, like TNR lady coming to my door, serendipity opening the door here. And that becomes harder if we get in our own way of self-judgment, and then I should be moving faster. So just know that that's going to open up. But what it does is it highlights, not necessarily people's emotions, because that's kind of where the moon comes in, but it highlights extremity. because Jupiter is like an extreme planet. It is a big planet and it brings in big stuff.
Right.
So while a lot of people are going to be flying on this and moving forward with this, a lot of the people that are stuck, it's kind of like, well, I should be moving forward. And yet they've already stopped themselves. It's kind of like they put up brick walls and then the energy opens and it's like, well, I'm going to go, and they run headfirst into the brick wall that they created. And then they're going to blame everybody else. It's like, that's not my problem. They did it for themselves. They put a brick wall around themselves and said, I'm going to be autonomous. I'm more important than anybody else. My opinion is better and you better listen to me. Nobody cares. So what happens with that is we're actually, as a country, doing really well. It doesn't seem like it because we're really divided right now. It seems like we're really divided right now.
Yeah.
But this is part of the negative lesson of bringing up things that, as the Earth, as the United States is in our Pluto return, to be able to reassess who we are after a 248-year journey, that we're reassessing what we started with. We started with simple statement, very simple, talked about this before, we the people. Okay, whether you want to look back on it and they said we the people only meant white men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's not what the statement says. The statement travels through time and it changes with what people understand people are. And the stuckness here is the white power base, the white male power base that wants it to stay the same. And that's Aquarian age not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So that energy, that fear factor of losing that power base is going to be stronger, which is what we've been seeing, you know, in politics and gerrymandering and the frickin' Supreme Court and all the stuff that's going along with that, leading into how crazy the election is going to be. So with Jupiter like flying high and taking a lot of people with it, it's like, oh, there are doors open that were never opened before. One, don't worry about the doors being open. They open. If you worry about it, you just cause it more stress in order for you to be able to take advantage of it. But for people who are in that stuck in that brick wall, that they put the brick wall around themselves, they're going to get extra frustrated because, again, this is what I should do. All this energy is uplifting and I'm going to beat my head into the wall to take advantage of it. And I can't. So it's going to be more frustrating and I'm going to blame more people and I'm going to get more angry and more afraid. So between now and the election, a lot of people are going to be in that hyper fear, hyper resentment, hyper blame. Not a lot of people, I would say, a lot of noisy people, okay, who are really, really, really screaming loud about their rights are not being, you know, listened to. Like, you know, white men are in jeopardy now because everybody else is talking about people of color. It's like, honey, pay attention to the United States. This is not a white country. It never was. It had Native Americans before the idiot white Europeans came. It's always been a country of color. Okay. So this is going to be the big contention, and that's what it comes down to, that white men trying to control everything else, women's bodies or election or the court system or the penal codes, everything that they can control to make sure they're still on top when that energy has already sailed. So what happens with people who are in this energy is that the Jupiter will give them false feelings of power. And they'll take that and they'll run with it. And it's not going to destroy our economy and inflation may go up, but it's kind of like we're in the zone for that to happen anyway. Do know the housing market is going to change, not this year, but it will be very different next year. And it will be like, next year, like, what are we deciding? Are we, you know, people are still going to sell their houses for a lot, but other people are going to stop buying it. It's just going to shift next year more than this year, but it'll start fading before the end of the year. So if you're going to sell your house and you want to get a lot of money, do it before October. But in the meantime, the energy of these people in their self-power over, meaning I'm more important than you, they're going to take a big hit, because as soon as they believe what they're saying, which is lie after lie after lie in order to suit themselves, those lies are going to fold in on themselves and they're going to shoot themselves in the foot because they do it every single time. So what I feel is going to happen when we get into the election is it's not going to be like a clean turnover. And so all of a sudden it's all going to be Republican and there's going to be one little lone Joe Biden. I feel it's pretty much fight, gerrymander. Oh my God, everybody's, you know, women of color are going to come and vote like crazy, no matter what people are doing to stop that. And that's going to be the salvation here. Thank you. But with that happening, it pretty much, I feel that we're going to get a Congress that's pretty much going to be the same. It's going to be like not really equal, just a little bit on somebody else's side, but not where anything can really get done. because the energy here isn't about what Congress is doing. It's about the grassroots. It always is. Grassroots starts every new shift that's going on. And we've already got that going on. And these crazy people that are trying to maintain that things are exactly the same as they were in 1950, they don't have a choice. They don't
Right.
have a choice. They're screaming and fighting because they're the Wile E. Coyote already off the cliff that I've talked about before. They're ready to fall. They're in the process of falling, and they're just saying, no, I'm not falling. Another freaking lie. Okay.
They're gonna fall.
So I'll breathe now and yeah, let you talk. Sorry.
Yeah. No, no, this is great, you know. So this Jupiter in Aries, you see, it's gonna be beneficial for the grassroots and for the people going
Yeah.
in toward the end of the year. And also for those who are already shifting or what I call ascending or have work on themselves,
Yeah,
basically.
very much
Because
for
it's
that.
not for everybody, right? Because you said
Well,
those
it
who are still
affects everybody, but if you are open and you've been ascending, like you say, or you are woke, which I'm too old to say, but still that's the deal here, that if you are in that zone, it goes
yeah.
like lift, 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 lift. You did all the heavy lifting. So that's the thing about where a lot of people are right now who are moving forward. And I've had a lot of people call me in the last couple of weeks that are like, what more can I do to make everything better for myself, for my family, for whatever? And I'm going, you did everything. This
Yeah.
Piscean age programming is that, especially for women, I've talked about this before, that you have to do more. You have to take responsibility for everything that goes wrong, and you didn't do enough. We come into this year, come into June, where things are opening up here. We have done enough. It literally is like if we did the work over the last couple of months, and people who are like in the Zoomies, they've already done the work. But it's kind of like, well, I don't feel better, so I mustn't have done everything right. Or what's my karma? What's beating me up? It's kind of like, yeah, but there are times when the overall energy that's trying to teach everybody delays your journey, when your journey is basically just, I already reached it. I already got everything that I needed, but I got to wait for everybody else to catch up. Okay, we're not technically waiting for everybody else to catch up, because there are people that are just not going to in this lifetime.
Right.
But it is about being able to now, without that block that's stopping us from moving forward, be able to move forward and stop looking at what can I do more? Because basically for all these people I've talked to, I said, you've done everything, but you're so used to being told you have to do more. I have to do more self-work. I have to be more self-aware. It's like you're already self-aware. There are lessons that will come that will make you more self-aware, but you've already done the heavy lifting. So at this point, trust that, and it gives you peace. So when things open up for you, you're not rabid about having to get it all done in 2 days when it's going to take 2 years to finish. So people who are open, and it doesn't mean you have to be like really transcendent and already know, life, the universe, and everything, but people who are open and who are looking forward to things that are not stuck in it's got to be this way, even on that's, the spectrum, as they call it. It's kind of like from people who get it to people who really, really get it.
Yeah.
That all this will give you personally what lifts you. And it lifts people who are really stuck, but honestly, for them, it's going to make them crazy. Because if you're lifted and shown there's all this opportunity, but you can't do it because you broke the stupid brick wall, then they have to face their own limitation, which of course they won't, because it's got to be somebody else's fault, not their fault. But it lifts everybody in whatever they need to be lifted.
Also talking about that lifting, open the door, should a person look at their natal chart and just see what planet Jupiter's, in Aries, which house they at?
Yeah. I mean,
So
just look it up, or have a website do that, and they'll tell you what that means. I mean, in a very nebulous way, but yeah, where Jupiter is. I mean, I've got Jupiter on my midheaven. It's in my 10th house, which is
my God, the same.
Really?
High
How
five
cool.
here. Yes.
I know. High five.
Mine is between 9 and the 10.
Okay.
Right between those two, but right on the top. Yeah. So in Aries up on top. So you have Cancer rising?
No, actually I have, what do I have rising? I have Virgo rising, and my moon is in Taurus.
Okay, so that's okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just sideways.
Because it crossed 2 signs. Yeah, definitely. But that's pretty interesting. So does that mean that does that mean that something's going to shift with your work or where you stand in the world, Laurie?
I don't know. I kind of am. I can't tell, and to look too much in depth with that, it's kind of like I like to go with the flow, because I have found so many changes that come at me that don't make sense. Basically, I don't fit with anything that is normal.
Yeah.
I have not had a medical professional be able to give me an accurate diagnosis my entire life. So I just don't play with that anymore. When I
True.
was a kid, I had a limp, and that was when polio was there right before the Salk vaccine. And so they thought I had polio. So I went to these 3 different specialists, and they all told me told my family that there was a different reason. It's like, this is this, and this is going to go away in 6 months. Okay, so I'm 68 now, hasn't gone away yet. So I think they were wrong, but
Uh-huh.
that's it every single time. And when I even had kids, it's like, no, I'm going to have kids at home with a midwife because I don't trust the freaking doctors. And if
Right.
I had been in a hospital setting or in a birthing room setting, my first son was breech, they would have taken the baby and I would have had to use the scalpel on some of the fucking doctors, excuse me. But
Mhm.
that's where I am. So I just don't trust that. But that's also with astrology, because astrology is there to give you a template
Right.
and you can transcend. And I'm not saying I'm transcending my astrology, but sometimes I
Yeah.
just don't want to know because it puts expectation in there.
I
And I
love
just
that.
kind of like go with the
Mhm.
flow on what's happening. And then I can look back and say, oh, that's what happened. And that's why.
That would make sense. Instead of having expectation, then you go with the flow and just kind of knowing and just kind of let it go.
If you
Yeah.
if you can get that information without expectation, some people can do that,
Yeah.
but it's really subtle, when you're
Yeah.
told something by somebody like, within an astrology setting, that this is the fact of what's going on in your chart here. It's really hard to just take away that knowledge and get it out of your head.
So true. So true. And I think that can make people get stuck into that too, into
Yeah.
just see it just one way,
Yeah.
and when a lot of changes come, which is normal, changes, like we talked about earlier, changes are constant,
Yeah.
so if we doesn't allow our mind to accept that it's always going to changes in our life, it just can be disrupted sometimes. We don't expect it, but it happened unexpectedly
Yes.
and can throw people off, you know.
We are a
Huge.
very adaptable species, but we've forgotten that because especially in the United States, we haven't really been challenged with that so much. I mean, we had huge changes that were going on in the 60s. We had obviously huge changes coming after World War II, and
Yeah.
that changed everything. I mean, they got rock and roll in the 60s, and I mean, in the 50s and the 60s, it was like free love, and let's, all go running around Haight-Ashbury naked and stuff. So but that was like the beginning when they talked about the Aquarian age, the songs about the Aquarian age and stuff like that. That was like the precursor to get us ready for what we were going to go into where we are right now, so that it wouldn't come as like a super surprise, that we were kind of like leading into it a little bit. And people that were kids or in the younger set when all that stuff happened, they might be stuck now because they just didn't want to listen to that stuff.
Mm.
But it's like a really big diametrically opposed free love, or all the stuff that was going on in the 60s. That's just, tip of the iceberg here on that. But now a lot of those people are seeing how that is opening up. And then, get the people who are still wearing their FBI outfit from the 1960s and 50s, which is the black suit and the black shirt and all the, the black tie, and
Yeah.
just really, really straight laced, and the haircut is short. A lot of people are still in that mentality, and they're the ones who are screaming, because it's the difference between being that, Men in Black type thing, not
Yeah.
the aliens, but the Men in Black type thing, versus the Haight-Ashbury hippie with the flowing outfit and the flowers in the hair. That's the where we are right now. Not where we're all going to go all hippie and everything, but the hippie was more about the individual freedom, the
Yeah.
individual respect for who you are as an individual. It doesn't matter color, it doesn't matter anything except, are you a good human being?
Right. Right.
And the FBI, Men in Black thing, that's like, no, if you're not an FBI Men in Black, you don't fit. And the energy is pushing us so hard that if you don't fit the way I think, not you're wrong or you need to change, you need to die. That's the energy that we're in, that is so extreme, because people are so afraid they're losing who they are, which equates to life and death. It isn't, because you lose who you are, you can still function, you can still work, you can
Right.
still live, but it's that important, it's that extreme, that it feels like it's a life and death situation.
I also feel like the energy also kind of, I mean, at least in for my experience, it just kind of brought me to see myself more of who I am, what I like, what my passion is, and just be Tina, just do what I like to do.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't have to fit in. I
Yeah.
don't have to feel like, you know, uh, doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be right. Everything just go with the flow. However it is,
Well,
it's fine.
you
Yeah.
had that huge sledgehammer to the head when you got COVID.
Yeah.
And it made you reassess everything, that it's taken a lot of people a lot of time to get to that point. You had it like in a really intense, compressed time frame. It's like, let's get your attention. Bam, 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 bam. Smack
Right.
you upside the
Oh, it did smack me in my
head.
my head, my heart, everything, my whole
Yeah.
being. And they're very traumatized for a short time. Yeah. It does make me think a lot, like, okay, what life is all about, really,
Yeah.
you know? And it's gone by fast and we just don't realize, and until the time comes, and we took a lot of things for granted, and I mean, I'm generally a very easygoing person already, but it just made me allow myself to not get upset over little things, which, I mean, I've never been really that way, but I'm more conscious of it, even more now. It's like,
Yeah.
things are not big deal, especially when it comes to relationship. I just kind of like flow with everything, which is a
Yeah.
lot easier. Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
that's what the whole last 2 years have been about. It's like stopping us from trying to control our lives and to go with the flow. And I said this in things that I was writing 2 years ago. It's like the lesson is um, trust that there's higher energy, or even your own personal higher energy, if you don't believe in God, goddess, or any of that stuff,
Right.
that there is higher purpose that's going on now, however you want to look at it, and that it is taking us where we need to be, and we can't see that. It's kind of like, people asking for help from angelic energy, finding me a job or helping me do this or helping me do that. It's kind of like the energy can see your path clearly, and you just can't. You're physical. There are physical limitations. You can't see
Right.
between here and the end of the forest because there are trees in the way.
Right.
Angelic energy can see through the trees, and they can see what path you need to go on. So it's trust that is taking care of us more than it's ever done before. And it's very active with us more than ever before, because we're transcending to that energy. We're not all going to be angelic, but I'm saying we're transcending to higher energy, which is where they are, or which that next level is for us. So it's the trust, it's the flow, the go with the flow, the go with the let go, let God, goddess. But that's the biggest thing that we've been learning. Truth is revealed. That's kind of like going to be with us for the rest of the Aquarian age, but also trust, because we are so used to fear and stress being normal parts of our lives that we are unaware we do not have to live in fear and stress.
Yeah, and that's very hard for a lot of people to just kind of go with the flow and not be in the fear or be in the worry, space. That's tough for a lot of people to deal with that. And I think with the COVID situation, either force people to recognize that or push push them to go to the extreme fear.
Yeah.
So like what you said, I love that analogy that you just gave about the physical aspect of we cannot see because of that. Really, really beautiful, Laurie. Beautiful, beautiful wisdom today that you're sharing with us. Now,
Thank you.
please share with the audience your background, what service that you offer, Laurie, because I don't think I introduced your whole, expertise, what
Okay.
you do. I mean, I know some people follow you on different videos that we have started since the beginning, but of course, some probably watch this for the first time. So let people know about you. What do you
Okay.
offer and what can you help them with?
Okay. I basically, my work, and has been for the last 35 some odd years, is that I work as a psychic or a spiritual counselor. So I handle pretty much anything you got going on, questions about love, about romance, about family, about work, about whatever you're going through. I get a lot of messages that give me broad perspectives. So it's individual and what's going on for you, but how that relates to why. I'm a really big why person, and that why you're feeling this way isn't because you screwed up. It's because last lifetime you were mean to somebody and now it's coming back to you, or last lifetime you deserved something that you didn't get in that lifetime because you died too young, so now it's coming back into this lifetime. So being able to see a big picture, not that I am connecting with the Akashic records all the time, but it's kind of like I can see and feel past lives that give a reason why things are happening. Because I had somebody this week asking, okay, this is terrible and my life is terrible and all this kind of stuff. Why has my life been terrible? And you ask a psychic that, a lot of psychics that, and they don't, that's a really hard question to answer, because basically you're going to say, because you got in your own way. But that's only part of the answer. It's like,
Right.
if you know that you came into this lifetime where you can do so much more work than any other lifetime, and you decided that you had this whole laundry list of karma that you wanted to clear up, and it represents itself as one challenge after another, after another, after another. That's why. And it's not that you're to blame in this lifetime for things not working out, but just you chose a really heavy curriculum to clear it up. And what it does is clear your path for the next arc, because we're in a whole new arc. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff I talk about. And, you know, details about, okay, when is something going to happen? Although that's kind of an iffy thing, because we are not in charge of time. We never were, but now we're like really not in charge of time, because time teaching us a lesson to don't pay attention to it.
Right.
So I do that. I don't do charts. I know astrology, but be aware I am not an astrologer. So I know how the tarot fits within astrology, how the tarot fits within Kabbalah, but I am not a Kabbalist and I am not an astrologer. I sometimes teach classes, not right now, but I teach classes in psychic development and in tarot and magic and things like that. So I'm trying to work up a curriculum for the fall. But at this point, my website is LaurieJohnsonPsychic.com. The first name is Laurie, and information there about how to book, about my schedule, about my rates, and how I got to be where I am, and kind of how I work. So there you go.
Perfect. You know, Laurie's been doing this for such a long time. That's how I met her, you know, in Los Angeles at the psychic store. And I went took some classes and got a lot of readings, you know, from her. It's really, really amazing, accurate. And she got a lot of wisdom, especially in the magic work. You know, I remember I used to enjoy a lot in her class. I even took your tarot class.
Yeah.
And that taught me a lot, actually. You actually taught me how to read accurately, you know, a simple way. And I love that. I love the way you taught. And she's really good. So I know she's going to come back with her teaching again. So look her up. Her information is going to be in the description here. And remember, grab her book, read her book, and you can find out more about her energy, how you like her, you know, and you're going to love her a lot once you start talking to her and get a reading from her. She also consult many business, you know, so if you own a business or you're going through any feeling stuck at this moment, which a lot of people do, connect with her, go to her site under description, and then just, you know, make an appointment with her. She's very reasonable too, so you're gonna love her. All right, with that said, Laurie, thank you so much. She's gonna come back again in the next couple of weeks. You know, she's a regular here. People love her. I mean, just look at the number of people watch her video. It's amazing. So Laurie, thank you so much for being here today, you know, sparing your time to share wisdom with the audience here. So I want to thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
It is a pleasure talking with you.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed, thank you. Yes, always. I always enjoy your talk. I always learn something from you. You know, that's what I love about it. You know, it just kind of make me think, and it just kind of reminder, you know. And, you know, guys, you like this video, please share this video with your friends, family. Tell them about Laurie Johnson. Subscribe to this, you know, channel, or just simply click like so people will connect with her more. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in next video. Thank you. Bye, Laurie.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Talk to you next